to join the business. We had different businesses. One of the businesses was edible oil business, which was selling edible oil in bulk, unbranded, and it was not doing too well. So I we had these two brands, Saffola and Parachute, but they were only sold in small pockets of Maharashtra and Gujarat, Parachute, and in Saffola, small pockets of South Bombay and certain parts of Delhi. And I think it just, I would sheer interest, I just went into the market and started seeing why they were not being sold. So I started traveling to the interior markets of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and started seeing why the product was doing relatively well in these markets, the Parachute brand. And I realized that I think distribution was very, very important at that time. So I started traveling on my own. We didn't have any professionals, and started appointing distributors. There were many times not even hotels to stay in small towns, and I've stayed with distributors at their houses. So in a way, almost starting at a very bottom level, retailing the products to the trade. And that's how I entered the business. And my first few years were spent in establishing the brand through better distribution. But I realized that distribution will take you only up to a certain point. And if you have to do really well in a marketplace, you have to create a brand. And that's where we said that how can we improve upon our market share, which rose from almost a 0% to about 15% over a 5-year period when we tackled the distribution, but then we started stagnating. And we said that can we innovate in this space so that we do something which is different compared to our competitors. And that's how we identified that a brand like Parachute, at that time, all the coconut oil was sold in tins. Can we convert the market from tins to plastics? So we designed some packaging, which was before we launched it, we went to the trade and we told them that we want to launch coconut oil in plastics. Unfortunately, the trade rejected that, saying that we will not stock coconut oil in plastics because a few years prior to our launch, somebody else had launched coconut oil in plastics and it was a disaster, primarily because rats love coconut oil. And then when the retailer closes the shop, they bite the bottles and the product is damaged, and more importantly, the shop also is damaged. So we had to, as an entrepreneur, you normally don't give up very easily. So we said that what do we do? Because we think that plastics is good from a consumer point of view. It's cheaper, it's more convenient to use compared to a tin, and it's also more attractive. So we decided to test out our product and put them in rat cages for 1 or 2 days, and we designed a round shaped bottle, ensured that no oil was spilling on the outer surface of the bottle. And at the end of the 2 days, we were clear that there was no damage done. So with that data, we went to the marketplace. We took pictures of our bottles in rat cages, give it to all our field force, and we gave an assurance to the trade that this is something which we are willing to compensate you if there's a problem. So with that, we started converting the whole tin market to plastics. At one level, this shift, this innovation looks very, very simple, but in terms of execution, it was a big challenge because first because of resistance from the trade, and number two, ensuring that the shift happened from a consumer point of view. And it took almost 5 to 7 years for us to convert the whole market. And we had to advertise much more about benefits of plastics over tins because we were making higher margins in plastic. And it took almost 5 7 years, as I said, and required persistency and a lot of follow up. And I would follow up every month in terms of what's happening to our plastic contribution to the total sale. So the plastics contribution went on gaining, and over a period of 5 years, we became market leaders. So from a 15% market share, we jumped up to almost 50% market share. So at one level, a very simplistic looking solution, but very effective. And I think it helped the brand. It's a very large category, coconut oil. It's used all over India. and we sell something like, as of today, we sell something like, I think, 5 crore bottles every month. So it's a fairly large category, and at one level, a simplistic solution, simplistic innovation ensured that we became market leaders. So I came to the conclusion that even in a category like coconut oil, there are opportunities for innovation. And we innovated post that in coconut oil by launching many other value-added plastics in terms of wide mouth jar, a plastic 1 rupee mini bottle, plastic pouches. So packaging was our route to innovation in a brand like Parachute, which has done extremely well. And as we became market leaders, and over a period of time, we said that can we export coconut oil to other markets? And one of the markets we identified was Bangladesh. Bangladesh has again a very large market. When we went there, we realized that the brand was dominated by local players and everything in tins. So we said that whatever we did in India, can we do it in an accelerated manner in Bangladesh? We launched the product very aggressively, and over a period of 3 years, we converted the whole market to plastics. And again, in that market, because of that innovation, we have an 80% market share in that market. Bangladesh itself does a turnover about 500-600 crores. We are the largest Indian company in Bangladesh. But what I'm trying to say is innovation has played an important role in a brand like Parachute. Now, take a brand like Saffola, which heart, that it improves the heart condition. And since day one, we've been actually selling the brand on a certain purpose. So we said that we just don't have to sell the oil, but we have to give a promise to the consumers, because consumers don't just buy brands, they partner with the brands. And we don't need to have just a transactional relationship with them. So since day one, we've taken many, many initiatives to educate the consumers in terms of how to improve their heart health. Initially, we did things like giving free booklets, free literature. Then, since then, we've had heart care camps. We have free cholesterol checkups. We give advice on customized diets depending on the community you are in terms of improving heart health. Also, started movements like better exercising, smoking, and I think all this has had a huge impact on our franchise. In a study which we done about a few years back, we realized that 80% of our consumers will not shift from the brand. It has high growth opportunities, and the brand was moving to a thought leadership platform primarily because we had a very strong purpose in this brand. So these two initial, shall I, forays into innovation and purpose just reinforce my belief in driving innovations through the brand route. Since then, we have launched many products, and if I look back at my own journey, whenever we have innovated or whenever we have put in a strong purpose behind that brand, it has given us a discontinuous growth. A brand like Revive just came out of my sheer need for starching clothes, and at that time, um, starching was a big hassle, doing it at home, boiling starch water, making it. And we worked with some starch manufacturer and then designed a product. We launched the product, and again, we are a market leader with a majority market share. I'll give you one more example, a brand which we acquired from Procter & Gamble, Medicare, which is an anti-lice shampoo. And they had a market share of 80-90% in anti-lice shampoo, but we knew that from our experience that shampooing is not prevalent in the interior rural markets. So we said that can we develop the similar product in an oil format, because oils are extensively used in rural markets. And we launched, after acquiring that brand, we launched Medicare in an oil format. Again, a very relatively simple innovation, but the sales just doubled because, all of rural started using Medicare oil. Um, some more examples of recent example of in the oats category, where we launched Saffola oats um, about 4 or 5 years back, and we realized that being a Me Too kind of product, we were not able to go beyond 10-15% market share. So we said that can we offer a product which is innovative? And in our consumer insighting, we realized that Indian consumers preferred a savory breakfast and not a sweet breakfast. So we developed a range of savory oats, masala oats, pongal oats, pav bhaji oats, and we launched them all over India. And we kept in mind that the taste profiles in India change with each state, you know. So for each state, we had a different flavor, depending on the consumer preferences, a different taste. And we have launched masala oats now about 4 years back. We have created a new category where I think the category itself is worth about 300 crores now, and we have 80% market share. So again, looking at innovation in a category and creating a new category was our way to increase market share. And we are now a very strong number two player in, if you combine plain oats and masala oats. And we see ourselves growing much more as we go forward. Um, One more brand, Shanti Amla, which was launched about 10 years back, so 10, 15 years. We entered the segment and we wanted to give competition to the market leader, Dabur Amla. So we launched, we got some good market share, but the brand was sold at a lower price point, and that was the key reason why we were doing well. And about 5 years back, we said that can we put a purpose in that brand? So we and reduce the discounting. So we said that a certain percentage of our sales will go towards creating education for girl child, and we launched two initiatives. One is a mobile Pathshala, where we were actually teaching people to learn English through mobile, and another was to teach um, basically improve quality of education in in the rural markets. We chose a brand ambassador in Vidya Balan who were talking about why you should buy Shanti Amla, and you know why the brand is helping and how the brand is helping in education of the girl child. So over a period of time, what has happened is our market shares in this Amla segment has improved. We are the market leader actually. Our profitability has improved, and again that reinforced my belief that purpose plays a very important role in brand building. So if I had to look at what we've done, whenever we've innovated, whenever we've done something discontinuous, whenever we put a purpose in a brand, it has led to a huge impact on our sales. We've seen a discontinuous growth, and I'm a very strong believer that I think every brand has to innovate on a perpetual basis. You cannot just say that I will innovate once and then it's a matter of time other competitors will copy you. So you have to be two steps ahead of competition. It creates a stronger brand, it improves market share. Ultimately, the innovation has to make sense to the consumer. You know, it cannot be innovation for the sake of innovation. Um, and if I look at our overall portfolio of products which we have, and if I look at the market shares, in 95% of our total sales, we are market leaders. So I think what innovation and purpose has done is to give us a very strong market leadership position. Of course, it depends on how you measure market share. For example, in an anti-lice shampoo, I would measure market share only in that segment of anti-lice and not overall shampoo segment, because we are only present in that segment and we don't compete with the normal shampoos. Even in a product like Saffola, I would look at market share in premium edible oils and not mass edible oils, because that's where we don't compete with the mass edible oils. So if I segment those markets like that and measure my market shares, I think in 95% of our turnover, we are clear market leaders. And that gives us a huge advantage in terms of economies of scale, pricing power, and helps the overall financials in terms of maintaining profitability. If there is a raw material price increase, then we are able to take the initiative, being a market leader, and you know mitigate that cost increase impact. So how do you drive innovation? How do you drive purpose? I thought I'll just talk maybe a few minutes on that. I think it's very important to have a diverse set of people, because diversity brings in a lot of different type of thinking. And when I'm talking of diversity, I'm just not talking of gender diversity. I'm talking of diversity in terms of educational diversity. You need MBAs, you need engineers, you need liberal arts graduates, you need people from different states in India, you need people ideally from some other countries also. Because when you put diverse set of people in an organization, you get a variety of views because their thinking is very different. And I think that's where new ideas come in, new innovations come in. Of course, that diversity has to be supported by a high degree of openness in the organization, high degree of trust, where people talk to each other on an open basis and not through certain channels which are normally existing in some organizations, that you only can talk to somebody through your own boss, but actually create a culture which is very open culture where people can talk to each other cross functionally, so that if somebody has an idea, they can discuss with somebody else, and then that idea gets developed. um, I've seen that in many organizations there is a fear of failure, where it's perceived that if I don't do well, if I experiment, if I do prototyping, and if that doesn't do well, I will be punished because it has failed. So it's very important for organizations to send the right message in terms of encouraging people to experiment, encouraging people to prototype, and just to say that, okay, even if it is done intelligently and with proper whatever homework, if it's okay to fail, because out of failures you get a lot of learnings, and out of the learning you'll succeed next time. So it's very important that the top management in any organization, I think, plays that role in terms of ensuring that people take risks, they experiment, they prototype, and remove that fear of failure within people. Because you can say that I will do all that through market research. If there is a huge fear of failure, people go on doing more and more market research and show that, okay, the market research is showing this, that's why I'm going ahead. And if it doesn't do well, blame the market research. But I am of the opinion that market research has huge limitations. And you can do some market research to verify some of the hunches you have, but you can't get all the answers through market research. Market research, I I think ultimately there is no solution but to actually launch your products in a marketplace and see how the customer is reacting to what you're offering, not only in terms of the product, the concept, but the brand name, the packaging, the pricing, and use that what we call the prototyping phase to understand what the consumer is reacting to what you're offering, and if need be, make those changes in each of the things which you're offering. And once you learn that, then you scale it up. So, and there are enough opportunities now to prototype with the emergence of modern trade, with the emergence of e e portals. We can easily prototype in one modern trade chain, or you can also prototype through Amazon, or through any e-channel. So it's very important to prototype and go on experimenting if you want to innovate more and more. And in this, the top management has to play a role of reinforcing innovation and go on talking about positive experiences which the organization is whenever there are positive experiences, or whenever there is some success of innovation, I think that has to be talked to the larger organization. So people, more and more people take risks, and there is a perpetual wave of innovations, just not in terms of creating new brands, but innovation has to cut across, whether it is your media planning, or whether it's advertising or packaging, or whatever internal processes you're doing. I think everybody in the organization should wear that innovation hat and then say, what can we do it differently, which will add value to the organization. So these are some of my thoughts in the area of purpose and innovation. And let me just shift a little bit to the pandemic and the recent times. And this is something which we have not seen, none of us have experienced, and it is new to us. It is causing a lot of stress, anxiety in all of us. But what this is doing to the consumer, I think one thing which is clearly happening is that some of the trends which were noticeable earlier, what we are seeing today, that these trends are getting accelerated because of the pandemic, and new habits are being created. So things like health, people are becoming health conscious, which is a very good sign, and hopefully that sign will continue in future once things are back to normal. People are looking at immunity in terms of what can I do to improve my lifestyle so that I don't fall ill again, because a lot of our current diseases are because of faulty lifestyle. And if we improve our lifestyle, whether it's advertising or eating the right food, or controlling our weight, or leading the right lifestyle for controlling our blood pressures, I think a lot of our current illnesses will reduce dramatically. So I see a huge, shall I say, benefit in the area of health and immunity if all of us lead the right lifestyle. The second thing is about hygiene. All these times we were taking shortcuts in the area of hygiene. Maybe at this time, we are spending much more on hygiene. And I'll just give you an example of one product we've launched in the last 2 months. This same product was likely to be launched about 10 years back, but the consumers just rejected that. So we launched a product about 2 months back, which we have called Veggie Clean. It's a product to clean fruits and vegetables and remove all the viruses and dirt and any other external material. We launched and it is just taken off, and the same thing as us 10 years back was just not ready to be launched. And now that people are far more sensitive to not just the virus, but cleanliness, because most of the vegetables in India are grown in unhygienic conditions, and they may have some other impurity, some other surface coatings. And it's important to wash vegetables with the right product. So I believe that this will continue. So the overall, I would say the thrust on hygiene will improve. And then the third thing is just like what we are doing in virtual calls. In the past, I would never hesitate to call a person for an half an hour meeting to my office, and that person would spend 2 hours commuting in a city like Bombay for a half an hour meeting. And now I'm so used to doing Zoom calls that I will always feel guilty if I have to call a person to the office, even interviewing for a job. So I think we should use more and more of virtual meetings. There are benefits of being socially together, so I'm not discounting there. I am also not a big believer in complete work from home. But I think overall, whenever convenient, we can work through this because all of us have got used to this. Our children have got used to learning through the e-route. We are doing doctor consultations. We are ordering more and more from e-commerce. So overall, I think this whole exposure to the digital world I think basically we have become far more habitual compared to what we were in the past. And I reckon that I think this whole journey of doing it through digital will continue. It may not be to the same extent as it is today, but that trend will continue over a period of time. And finally, to end, I think the pandemic has also taught us newer leadership styles. I think it's very important to be very authentic. And because of high degrees of anxiety and stress, we have to be far more caring. We have to be empathetic to all our people, and not just our own employees, but all our stakeholders, whether it's your key associate who's supplying to you or your customers. I think you have to walk that extra mile in showing that caring and empathy to them. And we've seen that some modern gym chains, they have started offering free kind of a exercise at home, and these are all coming out of caring. So one has to look at all the stakeholders in terms of looking at them, and how can you actually show your signs of caring, empathy, and authenticity to them. Finally, in terms of leadership teams, we have seen that because of the pandemic, there's been heightened degree of agility. Something which would take much longer time in the past is happening much faster. There is higher degree of collaboration and higher degree of communication, which is all very good. So yes, I know that we are all going through difficult times, and all I can say is this too will pass. Um, there's another saying which is reminded, never waste a crisis, and I would all sum up by saying that let's not waste this crisis. There are a lot of learnings, there are positives, and this too will pass. So let's look at the positives, and let's just, in the next few months until things are back to normal, let's just ensure that we have that grit, determination, and passion to get over this. Because once this is over, I think I see a much better future for all of us in India as well as all over the world. So with this, I'll just end my talk, and I would, if anybody else wants to ask me any questions, we have a few minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mariwal. That was such a lovely story and such an inspiring story that you're staying in distributed homes and from there to where we are today, working meditation. No surprise then that we've got a full house of people listening to, and I've got some questions that have come from that. Before I go to the audience, I want to ask one specific question for the topic that we are discussing and the audience that's here. What do you define as the role of the agency today?
Roll off. Sorry, roll off.
The role of the agency, your advertising agency, your
Yeah. So I think
What?
first of all, most people look at advertising agency from a short-term contractual kind of a role, and I, for one, believe that all are associates, and advertising agency is a key associate. You have to first, I mean, selection of the agency is the most important thing. You have to select the right agency where you will get the right attention. You don't want to go to a very large agency if you have a small size account. You're futile because you'll get neglected there. So I think you have to be a, shall I say, a big fish in a small pond, so that you get the right attention. And I think ultimately each, depending on the kind of business you are in, you may have different needs, whether it's digital needs or whether it is whatever. And some brands may be more amenable to television, some to press. So I think you need to be clear what exactly are your needs, and is the agency fulfilling your needs in terms of creativity, in terms of whatever you're doing, as well as that you are important to them. Having said that, I think I personally think that advertising, I'm willing to take risks in terms of advertising campaigns. So it's better to do a campaign which is offbeat. Sometimes it may not work, but when it works, it again has a discontinuous result. So I always encourage that let's do something discontinuous. And I'm reminded of a story, when, not a story, actual instance, when Marico was formed in the year 1990. We had to create an impact in the job market because we were going to select a lot of people in a very short period of time. So we went back to the ad agency and said that, can you design a campaign which has, we can only have two insertions in press. So they came with a campaign which had shock value, and they talked about 200 employees walk out of Bombay Oil Industries, mass killer nabbed. And I think that ad campaign really made a big impact, and we were able to recruit very good talent because they were innovative. So I think innovation again is very, very important. And once you do all that, I think it's very important to have very high levels of engagement with the agency. And what we do is, in addition to, um, we call the agency in our internal workshops. For example, if the brand is planning next year's, say, brand plans, ideally you should treat them as partners and call them in terms of what the brand should be doing in future, or if the brand is evaluating some other brand extension in the future in terms of innovations. Why can't we call our agency and tell them that, okay, we want you to be a part of that, whatever meetings. It could be a full day workshop. And not only the agency, we would want to call the market research agency. We would also want to call some thought leaders. So if we are working on a skincare uh, product, then we, ideally speaking, we should call dermatologists, we should call salon owners, so that we get a 360-degree view of what's happening in the environment, what are the opportunities, and that's how you get some new ideas, new innovations. We also send our agencies to training programs, which we do it for our own people. And these, some of the training programs are for 6 full days, residential training programs. Each person cost would be something like 2-3 lakhs. So again, walk that extra mile in terms of, giving them an assurance, treat them as partners, and be willing to, take some risk in terms of calling them to your own conferences. So I think that plays a very, very important role in ensuring that they are also as motivated in working with you.
Sure. Question from Garima Puchgar. At what, at which phase the product life cycle should brand managers ponder on the life purpose of the brand? What should the key strategies be?
So I think at any stage, as long as you think that you can add purpose to a brand. In case of Saffola, we put in a purpose when we almost launched the product. We didn't have that kind of. I'm talking 30-40 years back. We said that, okay, let's popularize this by sending free heart care booklets. So we just said that you, at that time, you just send a free envelope, just send an envelope with a stamp, so that we don't want freeloaders to ask for the booklets. So that stamp was 50 paisa or something those days, and we would then send the booklet to them. So I think as long as you can do it at any stage. In case of Shanti Amla, which I talked about, the purpose came a little later, when we realized that this low price discounting was taking us up to a certain point, and we wanted to go beyond that. So there is no one right answer, depending on the stage at which the brand is. One has to decide whether it could be a launch with the purpose, or it could be at the right time when you realize that the purpose can play an important role.
Harsha Shankar Pawar is asking, how would an established brand stay true to form, which comes from historic practices? brand
What?
never did.
How is the established brand stay true to the
Stay true
core?
to its core to when it was founded, and you had historic
So
practices.
I think it's very important to determine what the brand stands for, and I think there is temptation to take the brand from, for example, in case of Saffola, we were with heart health, and then there was a temptation to take it to health and forget about the hard part. But I think I'm glad we resisted that, because then you are weakening the positioning the moment you go to health, and you don't have a story there. So we said that we will go up to, from heart health, we'll go to anything which is connected to heart health. So diabetes, blood pressure is connected to heart health. We will go, overweight is connected to heart health. So we'll only confine ourselves to that. So we expanded to that in case of, and we stayed with that for last 30, 40 years. Parachute stands for purity. Earlier we were coconut oil, and now we are saying that can we use parachute from, shift from coconut oil to coconut. So anything which is coconuts should be a part of parachute, and it should be leveraging on purity of coconuts. So I think a lot will depend on where you're starting from. The temptation, one should avoid temptation because that category is much larger, because you don't want to weaken the positioning. So you need to have sharp positioning at one level and ensure that you stand out in the marketplace, rather than go and expand the positioning to a much wider base. But you try and you don't want to become me too then, because then your whole reason why you succeeded in terms of heart health and cases of love is getting diluted.
Question from Mithun Aditya. He's asking, and I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit. The temptation during the pandemic to actually build direct relationships with the customer, kind of disrupt the traditional sales channel. Did that ever occur to Marico? Did you think about?
So yes, what happened was, when when the pandemic, actually we are in essentials category, so we started manufacturing in the month of April, and at that time we had huge problems in terms of supply chain issues. So many times the distributors were not open, but the trade wanted. Sometimes because of COVID, the distributors closed down for 10, 15 days. So we have done many things wherein we have now used the modern technology to get order directly from the retailers. We have two big retailers we supplied directly. So a lot of delivery has happened in those days at mod housing societies, wherein we would a truck would go, and you can actually, if you are in a big building with a society, then you could buy our products. So a lot of initiatives, whether it's direct supplying to retail, um, or to consumer, and of course the e-commerce channel has actually increased dramatically. So a lot of initiatives have taken place in the area of distribution because of pandemic.
I think one more question, then I'll
And
ask.
also one more thing, we have taken earlier, our distributors, our reps or distributor reps would go to the marketplace and they would get orders from distributors. Now everything is through the e-route, because our reps were not able to travel because of, again, virus and all that. So a lot of shifts have taken place in the area of distribution also because of this, and many of them will continue uh, to everybody's benefit, I would say.
I'll ask two last questions. One will ask it myself, and the second last is from Jesse Thomas.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on sustainable packaging?
yeah, good
Please
point.
share your thoughts on need of
Yeah.
innovation in packaging.
So you're absolutely right. I think there is a huge pressure from all the stakeholders in terms of sustainability. I should have covered that when I talked about parachute, because we have taken, at that time when we launched parachute in plastics, I think plastic was not so perceived so negatively, but as of today it is. And that pressure is coming in from all angles, whether it's our employees, whether it is our own customers, whether it is our investors. Also, they're asking for what is the company doing in the area of sustainability. So it's a real issue. So we have to be sensitive to that, and we have taken a lot of steps to ensure that we reduce the consumption of plastics. We ensure that they are recyclable, and that many of the recycled plastics we can use it ourselves. And today, about 95% of our total plastic consumptions are not going into the environment. So they are either recycled or they're reused. So which is, and we have kept a target of 100% over a period of next few years. So clearly this has a huge, shall I say, journey at our end also. We were packing in some other materials like PVC, which we've discontinued because that's not recyclable. So I think it's very important for organizations to move towards ensuring that we are adding value to the overall environment and not creating environmental havoc. And I think every organization should be sensitive to that.
Wonderful to hear. 95% is a wonderful number. And I hope that most people in your space move there. I'll ask the last question and then we'll wrap up. There is a lot of talk about Atmanirbhar and local for local. A category like yours, Marico, is such a Indian company.
Yes.
In every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
To what extent do you think this is impacting customer decisions? Has it come to that point yet? I know it's a little bit tricky to say it's early on.
Yeah. So I think a lot will depend on the category you are in, and to what extent do you have other products especially from China. Let's put it that way, because China, the maximum consumer thing is, okay, I don't want to use Chinese products. But in our case, I think we hardly have any competition abroad. Now, there are companies which are MNCs, which are not Indian companies, but everything is manufactured here. So if you ask me, the answer to this is we don't see any, because we are an Indian company, we don't see a better future because we are an Indian company. It has not led to higher sales, primarily because I think most of the products I think at the consumer end, there's no negative feeling about that. In cases where there would be some supplies coming in from China, I reckon that those Indian companies would benefit. But in our segment and what we do, I don't see any positive benefits to us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mariwala, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you. My pleasure. Yeah.
And it was, I think I'm quite sure you at an early stage in the two-day conference, but I think it's safe to say that you've stolen the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and all the best to all of you. Right.
Thank you so much to both of our speakers for joining us today. A special thanks to our gold partners, Infobip, Brandwagon, Flipkart, and Jagran New Media. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Do stay tuned for more such exciting events. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Bye-bye.